okay, you're remote. How do you really get productive? And in this phase, we really focused on leveraging our AI, or artificial intelligence, and upskilling the organizations or employees. So one of the pieces or offers I'm most proud of is that, and this really leans into the community support, is we launched a new gig economy platform called CX Talent.
This podcast is brought to you by Muse, an AI-powered platform that sets the standard for content quality. Visit marketmuse.com to discover your content opportunities. Hey there, I'm Bernie Borges, Chief Customer Officer at Vengreso, the leader in digital sales transformation. I'm also the host of this show, the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. On this podcast, I showcase B2B marketers in the trenches, showcasing strategies and tactics that are working for them in their modern marketing journey. Be sure to listen to the end of each conversation for my summary and takeaway, as well as the closing message. And now, here's this week's Modern Marketer. Welcome to episode 293. My guest today is Kathie Johnson, CMO at Talkdesk. Kathie, welcome to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast.
So great to be here, Bernie. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Kathie, you know that I always like to begin each episode with a brief introduction to both your company, Talkdesk, and to you. Tell us about Talkdesk and your role there as CMO.
Sure. Talkdesk is a cloud contact center solution. And Bernie, we like to say we're the best solution for those companies who are customer obsessed. I've been at Talkdesk for a little over a year. I joined in November 2019, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer there and having a great time.
Fantastic. I love that phrase, customer obsessed.
Yeah.
Now, to give a little more context, company size, you're about 1,000, 1,200 employees?
Correct. We have 1,200 employees today.
Okay. And so as a contact center solution, so basically that means that industries like financial services, hospitality, when someone calls in to talk to someone to get help, they could be talking to someone at Talkdesk. Is that right?
You're absolutely correct, Bernie. I'm going to just correct you in one way, if I may.
Okay. Yeah.
Traditionally, they used to be call centers, which truly meant phone. But today, they're really contact centers because, as you know, when we reach out for either service or support or to even purchase online, we may do it via phone, email, SMS, video call. There are so many different ways. But you're absolutely correct. Almost every single industry has a need for a contact center. And we all remember the good experiences, but we mostly remember when we don't have a good experience with a contact center.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you made that correction and that elaboration, because it's so true. We all know as digital consumers, right? We tap, we click, we connect, and oftentimes we're dealing with a real human being in any one of those digital channels. So thank you for that clarification. All right. So what I want to discuss with you in our planning for the podcast, you really blew me away with the story that you told me about how when you entered 2020, yes, a year ago, you had plans to launch 20 new products in 2020. I don't know if there's any coincidence to that or not, but 20 products in 2020. And then, of course, we all know what happened close to the beginning of the year, I guess more specifically in March. So why don't you kind of talk us through that plan? How did that go?
Sure. I'm sure every marketer listening to, when you just shared, we had this audacious goal of launching 20 solutions or 20 offers in 2020. They thought, oh my gosh, she must be crazy.
Yeah.
But absolutely, a core strength for Talkdesk is all about our agility and our ability to innovate. 60% of our organization is actually in R&D. So you're absolutely correct. We started the year it was a fun marketing campaign idea, right? Let's launch 20 new offers in 2020. And you're right, the world then shifted, right? So through February, we did launch a number of those solutions. But then COVID happened. And obviously, we couldn't continue down the same path. The world had shifted. What was important to people had really shifted. So on March 2nd, Bernie, we actually pulled a group of people across the company together to say, what can we do to help? We said we're customer obsessed, right? So we wanted to figure out what could we do to help our customers? What could we help to do, other companies? And how could we help the community at large? And how should we revisit this 20 and 2020, right? What should it look like now in this new environment?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. We ended up launching a program called Business Continuity. We launched it in 3 phases with 12 different offers. So 20 of those new offers that we put in market, 12 of those ended up being tied to business continuity, to how do we help companies and communities and our customers in this time.
So you kind of shifted then the strategy of the product theme. Is that what you mean?
Totally. We shifted what we brought to market, really leaning into this fact that we have this very agile, highly innovative company. And if we went back and looked at what we were going to launch before, it just wasn't what was important, right? So when COVID hit, just to give you a perspective, because maybe you and maybe all of your listeners don't know, who works in a contact center. So if you look pre-COVID and you just look at the US alone, 5% of the workforce in the US pre-COVID worked in a contact center.
5%. Right? Wow.
5%. And then you think about how many of those were what is called on-premise solutions. And on-premise solutions means that you have to sit in front of a PC, you're tethered to your desk. You can't just take it up and move and work somewhere else. So at that time, 85% of all contact centers or all people in contact centers were on-premise solutions, which meant there's a major challenge. COVID hit, we had to get our employees to be remote and safe, right? Which meant in a contact center, they're sitting 3 feet apart, if that. Wow. There are hundreds or thousands of people in a room making calls or answering emails. So this was a pretty big issue for companies. How do I get my employees out of the building? And how do I still maintain productivity for my business?
Okay. So you mentioned it was a 3-phase rollout. Mm-hmm. So why don't you begin to unpack that for us?
Sure. So phase 1 is called Get Remote. And phase 1, we started launching on March 4th. And what I'm really proud of the team of, Bernie, is that we met on March 2nd. So on March 4th, 36 hours after we met, we actually brought our first offers to market. Wow. And that was actually a week before business continuity started trending on Google, which started happening on March 11th. So this was really early, right? We still weren't sure what was happening, but we knew how many people were sitting in contact centers who needed to get safe, right? So most of the offers we offered around then were things like, how do you, some of them were free. Organizations or industries like travel and hospitality, we just saw how those industries got devastated. So we were offering free solutions out to them. Other solutions were around speed. Talkdesk now helped us get companies remote within 24 hours, which is a really unheard of time limit. And others like Boost, we launched Boost because that could help people keep with their current solution, but leveraging Boost could get their employees remote and have them connect in. We also launched mobile because this was the other thing that became apparent to us is not only do you have to get your employees remote, but think of that huge cost implication for organizations when all of a sudden the technology that they have in the buildings isn't going to work. And there's a delay. How do you get all that hardware out to people and how do you afford that? So mobile allowed them to have their employees use their own mobile phones to connect in. So we really looked at, and talked to a bunch of customers to figure out what are the things you need in this phase 1, which was get remote. And we came to market with those offers to help them.
Okay. So, wow, very impressive that literally 2 days later, you said 36 hours,
Mm-hmm.
March 2nd to March 4th, you're rolling out phase one, and it was all about getting remote.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so what did phase two look like?
Sure. So now, by about March 21st, a high majority of companies had gotten their employees remote in some form, right? So we then moved to what we called phase two, which was get productive. So phase one was about get out of the building, get safe, have some productivity so you can still run your business. But phase two was now, okay, you're remote. How do you really get productive? And in this phase, we really focused on leveraging our AI, our artificial intelligence, and upskilling the organizations or employees. So one of the pieces or offers I'm most proud of is that, and this really leans into the community support, is we launched a new gig economy platform called CX Talent. So one of the things that
CX
became
talent,
CX
right?
Talent, yep.
Okay.
One of the things that became apparent to us is, my dog walker all of a sudden couldn't walk dogs. Restaurants were shutting down. Restaurant workers couldn't work. So we really looked at, okay, there are service-oriented people who are now unemployed. And so we created this gig economy where those folks could go in and get paired through AI with companies who needed agents. Because
Hmm.
although some companies were really struggling, they also had really, long lead times on phone calls, long response times to emails and other things. And we married that with what we call Talkdesk Academy. So this is a platform in which we offered free online training and certification to become an agent or supervisor. So now you could take your dog walker, who I have 2 dogs, love my dog walker. Now you could say your dog walker, go on to Talkdesk Academy, be trained as an agent in 2 hours. It's free. Go on to CX Talent and register yourself. Your certification will follow you. And then through AI, we will pair you with a company who needs an agent, right?
Hmm.
Who's now remote and trained on Talkdesk. So this was one way we could really help not only our customers who needed to hire agents quickly in remote locations who were trained, but also to help, I always refer to them, the dog walkers out in the world who all of a sudden were displaced and didn't have a form of income.
Okay, so let me just ask you a couple of clarifying
Sure.
questions here. So CX talent. So using your dog walker example, so any individual who is in that example a dog walker
Mm-hmm.
can register themselves with CX talent,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct.
And then potentially find jobs or gigs or whatever you want to call it
Correct.
by people who are in the market for dog walkers.
Well, people who are in the market for agents, service-oriented people who are now going to be an agent, not a dog walker. So an
Oh, okay.
agent. Yeah, good clarification. I'm sorry that wasn't clear. But it was to take people who are used to servicing other people, right? Because that
Okay.
definitely takes a certain mindset.
Yeah.
Reskill them in this new skill of being a contact center agent or a
Okay.
contact center supervisor. And then pair them up through artificial intelligence with companies who are looking to hire additional agents or supervisors.
Got it.
I took the
Okay.
dog walker a little far, I understand. So apologies that was
No, no,
confusing.
no. That's great clarification. So awesome. I'm glad I asked.
Hmm.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm still blown away by the fact that phase two was only 2 weeks later. So literally, companies went from getting remote in on March 4th to okay, we're ready to get productive in 2 weeks. That's amazing.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks. Well, but we were trying to be in front of it, right? And when you think about it with our new offers that we'd put in market, people could get remote in 24 hours.
Yeah.
But what they weren't able to necessarily do is make sure that they were moving from survival to thrive, right? Or survive
Right.
to thrive. And
Right.
so, yeah, not everybody had everyone remote, but quite a few people quickly had to have them. Well, they had to get out of the building. So they either
Yeah.
were working or they weren't working.
Market Muse is a content intelligence platform that sets the standard for content quality. Their AI-powered software enables companies to create predictably better content at scale that increases traffic and engagement, improves productivity, and drives revenue. Get more out of your content with personalized recommendations and strategic content insights. Go to marketmuse.com and use code Vengreso10 to claim 10% off your first year. So, does that take us now to phase 3?
Yes, it does. So then phase 3 is we called permanent remote. And we launched this in July 1st, which was probably a bit early, right? But we knew that by the fall, or we felt that by the fall, people would be thinking about what is my new normal, right? As a company, not the people themselves, but what's the new normal? How are we going to operate? Because we had all hoped that the virus would be under control. We'd hoped and dreamed, right, by the summer, and then the reality really did sink in more that it wasn't going to be the case. So this was all around how do we help companies with that permanent offering. So a lot of things that come up in contact centers when you're remote is how are you handling the security? How are you, ensuring there isn't fraud taking place? Because you're no longer in a room with supervisors around you. So we brought to market things like Guardian, which was our security solution, which helped prevent fraud, helped for authentication. So this was really around, okay, if your new normal is remote or some hybrid remote when, the vaccine is out to everybody, what are the things that you need to onboard your folks, to improve workforce management, and to ensure that there's security? And that was phase 3. And we're still in phase 3 today, Bernie. I mean, companies today are still making the decision on what their contact centers will look like in the future. I believe most will be hybrid, but some people are going back into offices and will have people working in buildings again.
Okay. So before we get into, where you are now, because we're almost a year into this timeline, right?
True.
You started in March. And so we're practically, as we release this podcast, it'll be fairly close to a year. Give me and my listener a little insight into, from a marketing perspective, Kathie, what were you and your team doing while you were rolling out this whole program? What are some of the marketing programs that enabled it?
Yeah, really good question. For each of the offers, and as I stated, we brought 12 unique offers to market tied to business continuity, and that became part of our 20 and 2020 launch. We were doing full marketing around this. So that included everything from educating analysts, press releases, but everything around awareness, thought leadership, a lot of blogs, and as well as lead gen. I mean, one of the things we really found is I think every marketer did. And again, there was no playbook for COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
For any marketer.
Yep.
So we were all creating our own. But we really found that people had a huge appetite for content, right? And I think most marketers would say that. So we spent a lot of time writing content to help companies and people understand, how what's happening impacts the business and how we can help them continue to survive and hopefully thrive in this environment. So full funnel marketing across every offer that we brought to market.
Cool. And then what about the impact on the sales team? Was there any shift on the sales organization and or their approach to the marketplace?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, we definitely had to do a lot of sales enablement, right, around what we were offering and why. And of course, whenever you bring free solutions into the market, you also have to help a sales organization who tends to be driven by the wallet, of course, right?
Yep.
How and what this might mean for them. And our sales team really embraced it. I think, like everybody in the world, we were all just stunned and saddened by what was happening. And this is why I talk about this as being mission driven, right? The way that we could come and help people, the way that we could help the community, the way that we could help companies. I think everyone at Talkdesk rallied behind that. So although the traditional mantra is what's in it for me when it comes to sales overall, right? They were also very focused on what can we do to help our customers? What can we do to help the community?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are in 2021.
Mhm.
So how's phase three coming?
Yeah, so we are still in the midst of phase three. I'm not sure how long phase three will last, right? It'll probably last until everyone is vaccinated and people decide which way they're going. But phase three is really continues to be around whether you're going to be 100% remote or you're going to be a hybrid remote and in office. Our offers are still relevant today. So we're going to continue with this, continuing to help our customers the best way we can. And
Okay.
one of the things we do, Bernie, is we meet with our customers all the time. I have in my organization a research and insights team that regularly meets with our customers to understand what their needs are, and then we are able to feed that back into the organization. So although I say we have what we have today, trust me when I say, again, leaning into our agility and innovation, that when we hear our customers or have a need for something else, we'll go add that to our roster.
Now, is product marketing under your org or is
Yeah.
that a separate org?
Yep. Product marketing is in my org as well.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, we don't see that in every single organization. That's why I asked. In many organizations, it's separate. It's not under the CMO. So that really gave you a strong advantage to really pull it all off. Everything you just explained, for you to just roll that all out from a product standpoint and from a full throttle marketing standpoint, as you say, under one leader, that's the way to do it. So hats off to you, Kathie. That's awesome.
Yeah, and absolutely. And Bernie, I even own internal comms at Talkdesk. So that really helped me all the way from the, inception stage all the way through to the rollout in the company. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. And, to me, it's always been very important that product marketing be part of the overall marketing organization.
Yep. Terrific. Now, I want to make sure we cover something else that you mentioned to me, and I want to make sure we share this with the listener because it's really cool. And that's something that you launched called CX Talent. Why don't you explain what that is?
Yeah, so I did reference that a little bit earlier. That is the gig economy platform that we launched in phase two. But let me
That's
highlight
right.
on because it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
a very cool offering, and I think it's very unique in our industry. So CX Talent, we launched leveraging our AI or artificial intelligence technology. And it's really the platform where people who are looking for work to become an agent, to become a supervisor, and companies who are looking to hire either temporary workers. Think about industries like retail, right? They have spikes in need for agents. And we're able through AI to actually pair them together based on location, hours they want to work, etc. Really tapping into that gig economy concept.
Right. Right. Fantastic. And that was just part of the overall program, right?
Yeah, that was not originally in our 20 and 2020, but yes, we added that into our business continuity program in phase two.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Okay. All right, Kathie. So what I want to do now is I want to transition over to my summary. And I think you know how that goes, where I'm going to do a quick recap of this awesome program that you just explained to us. And then I'm going to ask you to comment on it, kind of fill in any holes if you'd like. And then we'll ask you for your digital contact information and wrap up this episode.
Sounds great.
So we began with a brief introduction to your company, Talkdesk. You are a leader in cloud contact center solutions. Glad we made that distinction on the contact center solutions. It's really multi-channel, right? Phone, video, email, chat, etc. And that you really, one of the premises of your company is that you're customer obsessed. And so you're a company of about 1,200 employees. And so as you entered 2020, you had a goal, an audacious goal of launching 20 new products in 2020. I think you said you got through about 12 of them in the first couple of months. Did I get that right?
I
Through
actually didn't
February?
state it to you, but we got through seven before we pivoted, and then we launched the rest not tied to business continuity. But yes,
Okay.
seven
And then
before, 12 during, and the last
12
one.
during. All right. So when you shifted, because the world shifted,
Mm-hmm.
you shifted to what's called a business continuity theme, right?
Correct.
very mission focused, really about helping companies.
Correct.
And, you share some interesting stats. You said that 5% of the U.S. population works in a contact center pre-COVID, and 85% of those were on premise. They were physically in an office in a company location. So when you launched the business continuity program, you rolled it out in 3 phases. Phase 1 was all about getting remote. You began that on March 2nd, just 2 days after you met with your team to just plan your pivot, your strategy, which is that alone is just amazing. And so with phase 1 being all about getting remote, it was all about just getting companies, employees to be remote. You provided a lot of free offers and fast implementation and just a lot of things that really helped industries. You mentioned speed, you mentioned mobile, just things that can really, really help companies get remote. Then phase 2 was, okay, you're remote. Just 2 weeks later, which again is mind blowing. It's all about getting productive. Phase 2 is getting productive, getting employees to be productive while they're remote, leveraging your AI and upskilling them so that they can be productive. And that's where you launched your CX Talent gig economy platform. Is that right? In that phase 2? Yeah.
That's correct.
And okay, so that's where you were pairing free online training through your Talkdesk Academy with people that wanted to become trained and certified to become an agent so that then you could pair them with companies that were looking for those agents.
Correct.
So valuable service there. Phase 3, then you said was July 1st. Interesting comment, Kathie. You thought it was a little early. I made note of that in my head. I was wondering why, but because it sounds to me like you're really delivering on this, but you said it's all about addressing the new normal. I'm using air quotes here, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a permanent solution for the situation where companies just have a remote workforce. So it's about remote management solutions and really protecting against things like fraud. And I think you mentioned Guardian was a security solution that addressed that.
Correct.
And all the way throughout this entire rollout, you're doing full throttle marketing, right? You're educating the analysts, you're building thought leadership, creating lots of content, enabling the sales org, of course, doing lead gen along the way. And then as you enter 2021, you're still in progress. You're still about helping contact centers just be hybrid, part in-house, part remote, and just continuing to offer the wonderful solutions that you deliver at Talkdesk. And then I think we came back to CX Talent, just kind of re-explaining and re-emphasizing the value of that community-based program and how you're able to train agents very quickly and how that just became such a valuable component of your overall mission-driven program. So, Kathie, I'll leave my summary there. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Want to just make one slight correction.
Yes.
We came together on March 2nd. Our first offer came to market on March 4th. Just in the recap, you said March 2nd, we made the first offer. And it did take us, the 36 hours to get the offer.
The 36 hours. Wow.
Just making that correction.
Mind blowing. Yep. Yeah. Phase 1, March 4th. Okay. Thank you for that correction. Fantastic. Well, Kathie, what you're doing is amazing. And, you're doing it as a business, you're growing your business, but you're also helping so many companies along the way. And I love the theme, mission-driven marketing strategy. It just sounds like your company is mission-driven while you're growing the business, a for-profit business, you're also a mission-driven business. That's just awesome.
That's true. And I honestly think, yes, it was an audacious goal. And yes, even hearing you restate it makes me exhausted. But because it was so mission-driven, because there was so much passion behind it, I actually believe it really energized. A, it gave people a mission and a purpose during a really scary time. And B, it really energized people. We came together as a company. We came together as a marketing team. We actually met daily, right? Because there was so much happening. We had to do daily stand-ups. But I think in some ways it gave people a purpose, a mission, and comfort as we had one goal together during this really difficult time.
Fantastic. That is such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing it, Kathie. I really, really appreciate it. So let's get your digital contact information. I'm sure there's going to be some marketers that may want to connect with you. So how can people connect with you and just learn more about what you're doing at Talkdesk?
Yeah, thanks so much, Bernie. So on LinkedIn, I'm Kathie C. Johnson. So Kathie is spelled Kathie, C as in cat, Johnson. And then on Twitter, I'm same letters, just in a different order, Johnson Kathie C.
Got it. Well, my listener knows, Kathie, that both of those will be linked up in our show notes page at vengreso.com. So for anybody who's mobile listening, don't worry about it. Just visit vengreso.com and it'll be there. And you can, I encourage you to connect with Kathie. So Kathie, again, I just want to thank you so much for preparing with me to tell the story, sharing your story. And I can't wait to hear it just as it evolves in 2021.
Bernie, thank you so much for the time. It's really been fun to share, and huge shout out and gratitude to my team who really helped make this happen.
Absolutely. Don't forget to use the code Vengreso10 for 10% off your personalized content recommendations at marketmuse.com. Hey, that's a wrap for this episode of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. Hey, if you're not subscribed, I invite you to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player so that you don't miss a single episode. And I'd love it if you give the Modern Marketing Engine podcast a rating or review in Apple Podcasts. That really helps others to discover it. You know, we publish a show notes page for each episode with links to the resources that were mentioned during the conversation. Just go to vengreso.com and navigate to the podcast menu. And while you're there, be sure to check out our Modern Selling podcast hosted by Vengreso's CEO, Mario Martinez Jr. Hey, are you following the Modern Marketing Engine podcast on the socials? We're active on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. In fact, we publish each episode on YouTube for those who listen to audio content on YouTube. Hey, one last thing. If you and I are not connected on LinkedIn, I invite you to send me a personal invitation to connect. Now, please be sure to say that you're a listener of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. If you don't include a personal note, I have no way of knowing that that's how you found me. Until next time, I wish you continued success on your modern marketing journey.